Welcome to another episode of Indeed, the independent podcast about independent wrestling. I'm Mike Hamley, the host, as always. I'm joined today by, I have a co-host, the wonderful Lillie Alexandra. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, despite what I look like. I am feeling fantastic.
Awesome. Lily's going to be around the show a little more. This won't be her last appearance here, so get used to seeing her face. And we have a very special guest today. We're joined by the voice of GCW wrestling, Mr. Kevin Gill.
What up, though? So dope to be here with you guys. Thanks for the invite and for the ongoing support.
Always. Busy week for GCW last week. 4 shows in 5 days. Holy shit.
And 4 of them were new towns or new cities, new markets that Game Changer Wrestling has never had an event in before.
Yeah, so what? We have Detroit. Detroit was on
Thursday. And Detroit we've obviously been to many times, but then it was on to Sauget, Illinois, and then a day off, and then on to the legendary Coliseum in Evansville, Indiana, for a debut, and then on to an undisclosed location for yet another, a new facet of the backyard.
It's a beautiful spot. That was a beautiful spot.
Oh my God.
One of the best hard cam views.
Whole
cornfield. That was amazing.
As soon as I looked at the monitor before the show started, and I saw when they were setting up, and I saw that hard camera shot, I was just like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!"
Yeah.
And ironically, I guess it turned out that those smaller crops, like the short, crops that were right near the edge of the property line or whatever, those that were actually soybean plants or whatever. So as a tofu fan, I was like, "Wow, I don't know if soybeans have ever been this close to wrestling before."
Well, I was wondering where the corn came from, because I know during some of the matches, corn actually got involved as a prop in some of the matches. Was it from a crop or?
Well, Manders, Manders is the Corn Belt cowboy, the Corn Belt Colossus. He's a man of many things, and I think anywhere there's Manders, there's corn. But then when you're out in a rural farm-like area, I'm not sure if that was plucked locally or on the property, but I just know that when there's Manders around, there's usually some corn present in Makes spirit. Sense. And plus, if you guys have ever seen that documentary, like, what is that crazy statistic? Like, all human beings have this insane amount of corn in their body because corn is in fucking everything and you don't realize it. There's like a documentary about this. And because of corn syrup and these other things, basically, we all have this incredibly high amount of corn in our systems at all times, and we don't even know it. And that's without ever eating corn in its traditional yellow form.
From oils and all these fillers and things that are in food.
Yeah. It's apparently so omnipresent that it's just like at crazy high levels, like it's detectable levels or something. I can't think of the name of the documentary, but I'm sure if you just type corn into Netflix, it'll be one of the first 10.
For sure. If somebody can leave that in the YouTube comments later on, like I'm checking up for that. I would like to.
Yeah, I can look back and add it in. But It's pretty wild. I have to discuss that with Manders sometime. I've discussed it with GCW Mastermind Brett Lauderdale before. He would know it offhand. He always remembers movie names.
Nice. So
fun facts.
Kick things off. We started off. You guys started off the week in Detroit. Well, everyone else did except for you. Started off the week in Detroit.
And Joey Janela too.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Who was his match for that show? I can't remember.
It wasn't. I can't remember.
But that was a fun. Shout out to MLJ for doing the double duty commentary.
Yeah, man. MLJ's great.
Consummate professional. Not
shout out to traveling in this industry because it's a nightmare.
Yeah, yesterday was just hard. Like after a while, the 7-hour delay, I didn't care. The 1-hour delay, I didn't care. When they rebooked me to Houston instead of to San Francisco where I live, I didn't care. But then when they lined us up and got us ready to board again and then made us wait and then we're like, oh, now we're going to delay it 2 more hours. Then I just had enough. You know what I mean? And then while I was on the plane and not on, social media or whatever, someone created an account, like a parody account, or not parody is the wrong word.
Satire.
A scammer account, like with my image and likeness and name or whatever,
fuck.
and then was getting people to send them money under the auspices of me, like they think they're sending money to me to like buy me a beer or buy me dinner or something, but it's like a scammer getting people to send money to them instead. So that would it was just like the worst travel day
Holy
ever. That was just when you think you're good and you get home, then you find out that happens. You know what I mean?
And if you're watching this and that was you, fuck you.
And I feel like now that, things are opening, everyone's back out traveling, all this crazy shit's happening. People are getting injured, flights are getting canceled, people are getting scammed. Like the world's open again.
Did you guys see that story about Brian Idol? He wrestles as Mercurio in NWA. Did you see what happened to him?
No.
Him and this a female wrestler from NWA. I'm gonna botch her name. Shit. Yeah, anyone help me out with this one? What is it? Goddamn.
Natalia Markova?
Yeah. Say it again.
Natalia Markova?
Natalia Markova.
Is that it? I'm
sounds
grasping
right.
at straws. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She's very, very cool. So her and Brian Idol worked together, or they both worked for NWA, and they were on and this is a story people can see on MSN.com, I know has it, but they were flying back from a show, and they get off the plane, and when the girl got up, like her bag wasn't where she thought it was supposed to be in the bin, but she just thought like whatever. Then they actually got off the plane, and she realized like, wait a minute, like no, I don't have my purse and whatever. It's not where it's supposed to be. So they had to wait for the whole plane to empty out. They go back in the plane, her purse isn't there. So Brian Idol starts tracking her AirPods or whatever, and they see them with the Find My iPhone gimmick, and they see them just moving away from the airport. So they follow them to like a Walmart, like 30 minutes away from the airport, and they walk into and as they're walking into the Walmart, she gets a fraud alert on her phone. Not a fraud alert, but an update, like just letting you know you just purchased like $1,000 worth of shit at Walmart in near the airport. So they get that, and they walk into the Walmart, and they see a guy with an American flag mask and hat on that was on their fucking plane at the checkout counter with the giant, this is all on security camera, with the giant 50-inch TV on top of the shopping cart or whatever. And Brian Idol just goes right up to him and is like, dude, like, what the fuck are you doing? And the guy's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then just like fucking runs. And Brian Idol just fucking chases him down and fucking tackles them so hard they slid like 25 feet across the floor. And that's my feel-good wrestling story of the day. But I love that shit. And shout out to Brian Idol.
Yeah,
you gotta get that takedown. You gotta get that takedown right away.
Pick the wrong person to fuck with entirely there too. Like,
think about how crazy that is. Like, you're on a plane and you're gonna steal someone's purse out of the overhead bin and
you go right away.
Right, just rush to. So that to me wasn't a first time. I wonder how often this person has done this before.
No,
you know what I mean?
And it's a complicated scam too. Like, it would be better to just like steal luggage or something. Like, why would you go through all that work?
Yeah, and it's a race against time that everyone's going to know that their entire purse is missing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have that much time to be able to get to the Walmart and buy the TV. But I guess, I mean, he was at the register. If they were even 3 minutes later, he would have already been in the parking lot and gone, you know?
And thank God we now have like Find My iPhone and all this stuff, because like I've even heard stories of my homies who have lost something and they found it because of that stuff. And even the other week I was in a liquor store, and once in a while you have someone come in, they steal a bottle, and we have security guards at some of our spicier liquor stores, and they're usually told to like not get involved.
Sure.
But this chick, she was just like grabbing bottles left and right, like so brazen. And he did a takedown on her, and she went down so hard. And I was like, this guy, I think, is taking like jujitsu or something. Like, it was wild to see that kind of stuff.
That reminds me a lot of stories you hear from like a lot of musicians, like in like, you know, more locally traveling bands. You hear a lot of stories of people getting like their gear trailers and shit stolen.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of bands now, real smart move, that Apple makes air tags, and they're literally like GPS locatable
and hide them
stickers.
in different parts of your gear, and you know what I mean, inside your guitar cabinets and cases and all that shit. It's ridiculous what the extent you have to go to, and you have to have a band member sleep in the vehicle, and you know what I mean, and
just to keep your shit safe. It's insane.
And yeah, even Toronto, it's the bike theft capital of the world. Like anyone that I know that has a bike, I'm like, keep that shit inside because it will.
Right, you have to like hold on to it, keep it on your back on a hook.
It will be gone. You haven't lived in Toronto until you've had a bike stolen from you. That's like how you get inducted into Toronto.
It's wild, man. The de-evolution of society.
Yep. I guess we should talk wrestling though.
Yeah, let's get into.
Yeah, thankfully we all have an escape.
Exactly. Let's get into some of these cards. So we started off DOA in Detroit. There's a good old-fashioned GCW scramble, and Tony Deppen coming out on top over Alec Price, Jimmy Lloyd, Dark Sheik. Alec Price got to come for this whole weekend, and I think that's fucking awesome. That dude's amazing. Northeast beast. Yeah,
super great talent, super up and comer. You know what I mean? Definitely one to watch. I'm a big supporter.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of W's in JCW this year already too. So it's cool seeing him come up to play with the GCW guys instead.
Hell yeah.
It's so funny because in Ontario we have a GCW too. I forget what it's like acronyms for, but it's just like a local promotion, and it always trips me out because there's GCW, JCW, and then GCW here as well.
Right, local GCW, and then there's like what's called the fake GCW. There's one in America somewhere too.
It's in Florida. Yeah,
it ain't Game Changer though, that's for sure.
Right, yeah. There's only one that's changing the game, but hats off to everybody. Every non-weirdo that's like running shows and supporting their scene and paying their talent and all that shit and not burning buildings. You know what I'm saying? I support everybody that's doing that.
Yeah.
And everybody that has like proper rings and shit, like a ring, a safe ring, professional ring. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you guys seem to find the good ones in every town you're traveling to, at least.
It's not easy, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, like, cause everyone has different standards, I think, for like what constitute a ring or whatever. But I mean, you just think of you guys know better than anybody, like the risks the talent is taking every time, every move, every time they step in the ring, every time they literally just step through the ropes, as we've seen in televised wrestling, you could just step through the ropes and suffer a almost career-ending injury. So, yeah, to me, a ring is just a really important. A good ring, you know what I'm saying, is worth its weight in gold.
Shout out to ring crews too. Without ring crews, none of this shit would happen either.
Yeah, the ring crews are essential, and the people that maintain the rings. There's so many people that help. It's like it takes a village approach in independent wrestling because the better the promotion is in terms of its production and vibe and everything. That just means there's so many people helping everywhere from at the door to the seating to the airport pickups and drop-offs and making the flyers and the ring announcers and the commentators and the you know what I'm saying, the referees, and there's so many camera people, like it just goes to that's a lot of fucking people. You know what I'm saying? And all the people who buy tickets, you know what I'm saying? Like to me it's all the same, that everyone has their part, so to speak, and if any of the parts were missing it would be harder or it wouldn't work at all. You know what I mean?
And that's why I kind of like this road trip series, because he kind of had a good mix of everything. You kind of had a nightclub show, you had the cornfield show, you had the Knights of Columbus Hall, and then you had the Coliseum. So you kind of got to see different facets of like what GCW is really about. And there were some kids at some shows. There were some like more spicy matches, not appropriate for kids. So everyone got to enjoy it. That's why I like GCW. And I guess I kind of wanted to talk about like what kind of is the vibe and the energy like before and after a show, because as someone who's kind of like in my own local scene, I kind of like help with ring crew. You'll stick around. Sometimes you go out after. And this weekend in particular, like on top of it being 4th of July, must have kind of been a rager as well. I don't know if like a lot of you guys are big partiers, but do you guys like go out and get food and all that kind of shit? Or
it's funny, it all comes down to the logistics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so, and by that, literally meaning like where are we staying? Who are we riding with? and when are we leaving to the next place or whatever, sometimes can have massive implications so that some of us don't even see each other at all, like depending on who's who or what's what. But then this weekend, like we had that night off on Saturday night, and we were all in the same. I think almost all of us were in the same hotel, which also is not often the case. And we had a day off, which is often not the case. You know what I mean? So Nick Gage had the idea that we should get some beers and watch the UFC preliminary fights, and then go to like a area bar and watch the main fights. So it started with me and Nick and Dave Prazak. And then, but Nick's idea was, let's, so we're sitting there texting everybody and calling everybody. And then at the end of the night, man, like pretty much, I think we had 17 or 18 of the team, the wrestlers and all that, the refs, come out and have beers and eat and watch UFC. So that was awesome. But that felt like a special occasion. You know what I mean? Like just that we all happened to be there and have the night off. But then, like along the way, like I got to go out to eat with Spider Nate Webb and Dave Prazak on one of the days, and let me think. There was one other. I can't think of it now. But yeah, it totally just varies. So, but Backyard itself is a giant party. So that kind of like everyone is just hanging out and having beers and doing whatever. But it was so fucking hot, man, at Backyard. So. Some people can manage it better than others, meaning, like, for example, I don't want to be in the heat at all. And even being in the shade with a small fan on me, just doing commentary, drinking an ice cold beverage at all times. I mean, it looked like somebody threw me in a pool, you know what I mean? And I hadn't at all times. So, but yeah, it varies. But people love to get together, and then pockets of people get together, so to speak, because whoever's your car or whoever's your roommates or whatever kind of has an influence on your evening or your plans. You know what I mean? Like sometimes my roommate is Joey Janela, sometimes my roommate is Dave Prazak, and then that alone is its own.
What a sentence!
Those are different. Those are really different vibes. Like definitely not the same after show routine for those two guys.
I think he's in Australia now too, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, he is. And I was just I was translating some Joey Janela stories to a writer in Japan. Literally, that's why I was a few minutes late to do this, because those Google Translate and stuff, it's amazing, it's revolutionary. But if you're going to take a big story someone wrote out without the intent of it being translated internationally, like it can be, the translate doesn't work well on slang and all that. And then if you're dealing with someone who doesn't speak English as their primary language, it can be a really tricky conversion. So I try to like re-summarize the stories in very small bites that are universally much more easily translated and understood. So I was just helping do that, which was just has Janela on the brain. You know what I mean?
And it's so awesome. Like Ninja Max killing it. Noah, Janela is going to be doing amazing work over there. I got to see Speedball go head to head with Gringo Loco and Ninja Max the other day. And like, if you haven't seen these guys live and you're watching this, just go spend the money, go see it. It's cool to see it on Fight, but seeing these dudes do it in person is totally different.
And Alex Zane, I would put in that category too, man. Yep. He's been killing it in New Japan. And I agree. Yeah. The production and everything from GoPro on Fight, I think is second to none on the indies. But being in that room, man, like the feeling and the atmosphere and just the electricity, there's really nothing else like it. You know what I mean? It's really, it's hard to even put it into words. Like I'm someone who got to, as a fan, experience like the glory days of ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. And without Extreme Championship Wrestling, there was no Monday Night Wars. There was no Attitude Era. None of that happens without ECW. All that stuff essentially was just taken from ECW. You know what I mean? From Steve Austin to Mick Foley to Eddie Guerrero to
the entire hardcore division. Like the hardcore championship was basically like the ECW belt is like we're gonna do ECW matches now.
but all that stuff, Rey Mysterio, like all the biggest ingredients of both sides of the Monday Night Wars talent and attitude was all 100% taken from ECW. And it's funny because WWE has gone on the record to admit this and put out a book about it and a DVD that documents it, you know, the rise and fall of ECW and all that. But then on the other side, you have WCW, who acts like historically that we never did that pissant company. You know what I mean? And it's like, come on, guys.
You definitely didn't raid all their luchadors.
Sure, but the point is,
Revisionist history.
Yeah, to me, I haven't seen anything like ECW, or I haven't seen anything like GCW in wrestling since ECW. You know what I mean? And that's that the vibe in the room. It's and the atmosphere. Yeah, it's literally like nothing. I haven't seen it since ECW, and that shit was a once in a lifetime, or so I thought, amazing thing. So, yeah.
And the momentum is insane too. Like I was just looking at the schedule coming up. You guys are going all over the place. Eventually you're going to go to the UK. Maybe you'll come back and talk about that a little bit later in the year. But there's not a lot of promotions that it's not even about having balls. It's just about doing things that other people aren't doing. You know, I'm not hating on WWE or AEW or Impact, but it's the same style of matches week after week, which is great. And I love those brands for certain reasons. But the fact that, you know, each GCW event, you kind of know what you're going to get, but you really don't.
Sure.
And sometimes, you know, prayers up to Hoodfoot, like horrible accidents happen. And that's part of it too. That's the reality of this business. You know, I have a black eye from getting mule kicked in the face in the ring the other day. It's the way she goes. And, you know, hats off to you, to all the talent, all the ring crew for continuing to like kind of push the boundaries, but not like in a shitty offensive way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I love the idea, and it harkens back to ECW too, because at the time, say, I started going to ECW in 1996, early 1996, and at the time, I then became aware of all these people who would say, oh, you know, ECW is garbage wrestling, and it's just blood and guts garbage, it's trash. But you go to the show, and it's, to me, similar to a GCW show in that you would have an amazing lucha match, you'd have a hardcore match, you'd have something with a legend, you'd have all these different amazing things woven through an incredibly well-paced, satisfying show. You know what I mean? And somehow that's become the antithesis in some ways of what certain companies do for televised wrestling. But to me, running a kick-ass event where the fans are going crazy the entire time, loving the diversity of the performers, the matches, the match styles, and all of that together, that's magic. And that's what I feel like GCW creates. There's magic in that diversity, truly.
And sorry, I didn't mean to, you go.
With the fan base too, it's pretty wild because you're going to like this weekend, you went to a couple of new places and it's already that rabid GCW fan base is like, I don't know how many people traveled to the show from out of town but it was like already their first night in town.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy like that to arrive in a town you've never done a show in before and run it. And everyone is already in on it, so to speak. You know what I mean? They're already down with the whole thing. You're not selling them on it. You're not trying to establish yourselves to them. It's like the show is here and they're like, fuck yeah, the show is here. You know what I mean? That's crazy to think about. You know what I mean? Of course, there's new fans in that crowd and there's fans that have never seen it before and all that. And of course, we want to win them over. We want them to come back. But the idea that they come out and they've already, obviously, it seems like they've been watching the product on Fight. So whether they travel to it or they live within driving distance, it's just an amazing thing that it just continues to happen from, you know, Los Angeles to Laramie, Wyoming, to Atlantic City, New Jersey, to Evansville, Indiana, to Tokyo, Japan. You know what I mean? There goes one of my earbuds.
It happens. and you said the word diversity. It's so true. And like, even it's hard to say I had a favorite event out of like the past road trip series, but the Rock and Roll Express had such a nostalgia factor to it, but it also had everything else that a good wrestling event needed. There were so many shots where there were kids popping so hard for Janela with a Wu-Tang Clan shirt in the crowd. Like there are these little details that you will see at a GCW show that you won't see anywhere else. And it doesn't matter if it's in a Knights of Columbus Hall or a nightclub or Hammerstein Ballroom, it's always the same energy. And I think that's what kind of makes it unique. And that card was insane. And I need to ask, like, did people know that that balcony dive was coming, or was that like out of nowhere? Because I was like, I don't think he's gonna do it. But then I was like, wait, they've done dives this high before, so it's probably coming.
I mean, anytime we run in a building and Matthew Justice is on the show, I think everyone's kind of just look when they walk in the venue, they kind of look around to see if there's something that Matthew Justice is going to try to jump off of. When I'm watching the show unfold, like I didn't know what he had in mind, and then when they went up there and didn't come off of it and posed up there or whatever, and then the crowd came back down and then he left, I was like, man, they're not doing anything. That's crazy because it's weird that they even went up there like that because, you know what I'm saying? It made everyone think they were going to do it, and then they didn't. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, probably for the best. And then like 30 seconds later, he runs back up on the balcony and jumps off.
Psych.
So that totally psyched me out in both ways because one, I was like, he's not going to do it. Then it's like, he's going to do it. No, he was just teasing it. But then I'm like, well, why would he tease it? And then he did it. But that dude is fucking crazy, man. Like, yeah. He doesn't give a fuck about anything, and it doesn't seem that anything applies to him, like fear, self-preservation, injury. He's just a machine. Matthew Justice, man, fucking like no other.
SGC, like, you want to talk about reminding me of ECW? SGC matches literally is like as soon as the music hits, because it makes me think of RVD. But then two, it's like the match starts in the ring. You get maybe 3 minutes, and then they're everywhere else in the building. Fans are getting involved. Yeah, I love that actually. The SGC split screen, like the
more
SGC,
split screens in wrestling, please.
The SGC branded split screen was so necessary because, like, if they're everywhere. Props to GoPro for keeping track of all that action.
Yeah, and often putting themselves in harm's way, and they're getting clobbered or cut or other things that happen to the brave team at GoPro while doing their documentation. But yeah, the Second Gear crew is just insane. Like their whole aura, they're mysterious. You know what I mean? Generally, you don't see them before their match. Generally, like even if you're a fan, whatever, you see them when they come out through the fucking curtain. They go fucking hard in the ring. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to see them after the show either. Although, like the other night in Evansville, they all went out and took pictures with the fans and stuff after. But again, with travel schedules, everything. So I love in a sense because that to me is very old school in a sense. And they're protecting their aura. They're protecting their energy and protecting their star power. And believe me, I take nothing away from meeting the fans, hanging out with the fans and all that. It's a vital and important part of it. But within that, if there's 25 wrestlers and 10 of them are out there and 3 of them, you know what I'm saying? Like it's all a balance, but there's something really vital about having an aura and leaving some things unknown or unanswered. You know what I mean?
And leaving an impression. Like sometimes it's like, say less. You know what I mean? Say less.
Say less.
Yeah.
Say less indeed. Well stated.
And another standout from that event was also Mr. Deppen, the Snot Rocket King himself.
My favorite.
Going against Kerry Morton in kind of like a classic Memphis style wrestling match. And it was really hard hitting and super impressive from both of them. I love Deppen. I love a good shit heel. But Morton was so impressive too.
That match felt timeless. Like you could take it out of, it happened in 22. You could have dropped it into like 1985, 1995, 2005. That match would have fit in. Also, Tony Deppen.
Especially in the venue itself. Like it had this vintage feel to it.
Tony Deppen is my favorite wrestler. That's no secret here.
Deppen is just so great at everything. And then Kerry Morton, third generation wrestler. And to be there in the building where his dad started and his grandfather worked and his dad, I don't know if it came off on camera, but Ricky was standing right next to the commentary, right next to the hard camera on the stage. He watched his son's entire match and was just cheering as loud as or louder than anybody, like so proud of his son. And you just love to see that dynamic, you know what I mean? Of because again, we all live in this world of fractured families and all this terrible shit that happens constantly. So when you just see something like so sincere and simple like that, even if you don't have it in your own life or whatever, for whatever reason, you can kind of experience it secondhand, so to speak, through other people's experiences. And the generations thing. So you have Ricky so proud of his son, watching him and Tony Deppen tear it down in the building where he got his start. When Ricky came to the building, Ricky and Robert came to the building earlier that day. Ricky walked in. As soon as he got there, he walked into this part of the dressing room that was like the lights were off and stuff, and it was like off separate from where we were set up. And they have all these within the dressing room in the Evansville Coliseum. They have all these like booths or stalls almost. So like instead of just being a big open dressing room, there's a whole bunch of open space, but there's a whole bunch of closed off space. And in there, there's like a chair and a mirror and a little shelf for your stuff. So like almost, back in the day for the various headliners and key people and stuff all had that. And as soon as Ricky Morton got to the building, he walked into the darkened area and went over to this particular booth where his father was a referee and Ricky was a wrestler there, and they would always get dressed together, and that was their booth. And he just went into the dark booth and was like, "Hello, Dad." You know what I mean?
I'm
just
getting
there alone in the dark.
man.
And yeah, it's so I walked up to, I was walking over there and I happened to encounter Ricky like as that was happening. And then it was like somebody pulled a string, and then he took me on a tour of the building. We went all into the guts and like the infrastructure of the building and the boiler rooms. And he has a story for every corner and every room, and showed me where everybody would sit. This is where Bill Dundee would sit, and this is where Lawler's setup was. And yeah, just for me, the whole thing is like, and the generational thing, like here's a kid whose dad helped get him into wrestling, and now and they're in the same building, and he's in the twilight of his career, but his son is just getting started. Like, yeah, it's all these feelings and emotions that so many people think wrestling is so stupid or so ham-fisted and has no subtlety and has no like emotion besides like USA or whatever. You know what I mean? Knee-jerk reactions, but there's all this subtle beauty and emotion if you look just beneath the surface. You know what I mean? And you look ancillary.
And those full circle moments are so rare. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but you kind of said something that struck a chord with me is, people always say, oh, wrestling is fake. It's what isn't fake these days?
Right. What? Yeah. Well, so politics are fake. That's much more concerning to me. You know what I mean? It has much more of an effect. It hurts a lot of people. But meanwhile, wrestling is the opposite. Wrestling is an escape. It's a performance platform, and it's an art form. And it's a DIY business. Do you know what I mean? It's everything. There's very few things that are like that, and it's so important that the art form stays alive. And companies like Game Changer Wrestling, in my opinion, shape the future of wrestling while defining the current of wrestling. You know what I mean? And not everyone will admit it, and it'll make some people mad, but I mean, it's completely the truth.
Well, when you have the Rock and Roll Express deciding the Game Changer Wrestling is where they want to have their final match in the Evansville Coliseum, I think that should say all you need about what Game Changer Wrestling is all about.
Man, well stated. And Ricky's been on the record like many times with his thoughts on GCW, and Ricky and Robert have competed with us, before. And just incredible. Just to be a small part of the Rock and Roll Express's rich history and legacy in wrestling as they do their farewell tour, and to be able to have spent time when we were talking about hanging out and stuff at shows or after shows. When we did Laramie, Wyoming, the same thing. Laramie was so out there that we had to all of us had to get there the day before to be able to do a show the next day, which led to basically everyone being there the night before and having the night off. And we all went out to dinner with Ricky Morton, and just luck of the draw, I got to sit directly across from Ricky Morton. And luck of the draw, because there were so many of us, even though we had a reservation, it took them over 2 hours just to bring our food out. And normally I would be like unhappy about the situation, but it just meant that literally Ricky Morton just told stories nonstop for 2.5 hours, and I had the best seat in the house. You know what I mean? So those things are like some of my fondest memories because there's really no you can't buy that experience, and you can't even plan for that experience. But if that experience happens to you, it's like just try to savor it and be in the moment for it. You know what I mean?
And that's why I tell people support the independents. Like these big companies, they got their money. And yes, they can always use your money, but like Vince McMahon, Tony Khan, I'm sorry, they don't need more money. But there's so many promotions, not just GCW, that not necessarily need money, but deserve people's money to thrive and to keep going and foster
and to grow and all that, to build an infrastructure, to build a production pipeline. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All those things are so important, and your money goes so far. Like, if you're going to a show that has a $10 or a $15 or even a $20 general admission, think of what that gets you in the real world. Is it a couple of cups of coffee? Is it a movie ticket but no snacks? You know what I mean? Like,
definitely no snacks these days.
It's wild to think about what you get for your dollar at an independent wrestling show, not just for the event itself, but then essentially like the merch pavilion or the meet and greet festival. And you know what I'm saying? On the indies, a lot of the performers are more than happy to take pictures with everybody. They'd love to sell you some merch or sell you a whatever. But if you want to take a picture with them, if you want to tell them your story, whatever, there they are. You know what I mean? And that's an amazing thing. And that in itself is an experience worth paying for, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
You don't get that at a big stadium show. Like, you're actually in it. And, like we've seen many a times where people might be too in it at GCW events when you need to get out of the way. But that's also part of it too, right? Like I was at a lucha match the other week and I was like so into the match. I was like, wow, look at them high flying. Then I was like, oh shit. And I almost got hit right in the face. So that's kind of part of the beauty of not just GCW, but independent wrestling, is being able to, don't actually touch the performers, but actually reach out and touch and be involved in it. And I encourage people to just ask, not even message, just go to shows and talk to people you're into, and so many more opportunities will happen. And even myself, like getting to talk to you, this is awesome. Getting to just start to get into the ring myself has been awesome, black eye and all. So it's just so cool to talk and support independent wrestling. It's so important, and I'm so stoked that you let me on the show as well. So
that's so cool. I'm all praise due to our homie Mr. Perp. DRP baby.
Well, we're in Canada, so we smoke that purple like all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was going to try to say, sorry. What was that point you were just finishing up? Because I was going to add something to it.
The independent wrestling's important.
Oh, yeah. Fuck. Well, I was going to just add one little thing to it. Anyway, it'll come back to me. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's all good.
I can't remember what I was going to say now, but, let's move.
I know what I was going to say. Okay. So one, a lot of GCW shows, or depending on the market and who we have to help us and whatever, a lot of times I'll be involved in the seating arrangement setup or like ticket taking or getting people into the show or helping them find their seats or whatever. And I get to meet a lot of fans this way, but it's so cool because you get to meet fans that are like, it's their first show ever. They just found out about it. They don't even know anyone else that knows about it or likes it, but they still fucking show up. And that to me is the hardest barrier to break. And I wanted to just speak to people that find themselves in that situation. Like, don't ever feel funny or don't ever sit at home and miss a show like this because you don't know anyone that's going. Like, trust me when I say that. You won't be the only person that rolled solo, but in rolling solo, you'll probably in the future, it won't be that way. Do you know what I mean? Just because of the nature of the community. On the flip side, I love the people that are also show up and they'll even if they have to buy tickets they'll do anything to get other people they know to just be in the room and experience independent wrestling in person. Even if they've never watched wrestling, they don't care about wrestling, whatever it is, you put them in that room, you put a beer in their hand and their lives are changed. So sometimes the same person you meet on the way in, who tells you like these are my 8 friends or whatever. Like this happened in LA. That never came to wrestling before, and they all have a GCW shirt on now, and they're all like, "Bring it on!" And then at the end of the night, their heads are fucking blown off their shoulders. Yeah, and they can't believe, like they literally can't believe, like this is happening in their town. You know what I mean? And all those things I think are magic within that, and it all comes down to support or a movie or a video game. You get way more enjoyment dollar for dollar out of independent wrestling.
And you get a new family. You get a literal new family. Like it's so cool when eventually when you've been involved and you're seeing it, it really doesn't matter where you are. I've been at shows where people just like kind of like tap me on the back and they're like, "Hey, Lillie," and I only know them from like shows or like Twitter or whatever. It's family, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And that's the beauty of it. And I used to be like quite involved in like the metal and punk scene in Toronto. And it's the same kind of feeling where we're all kind of looking out for each other, and you know, we're all here to support each other. And I think that
somebody falls down, you pick them back up, as they would say.
Exactly.
It's
dope.
It's such a unique fandom, and it's kind of something you touched on too about the discovery aspect of it, which is part of the reason I started this show in the first place. Is that everyone keeps hearing about all these wrestlers and seeing all these gifts, and they're like, "Where do I see this guy?" I'm like, "You could be literally watching this, like." You could have been there. You could have seen this guy wrestle in your town last week.
After they do the flip, and then you can take a picture with them after the match.
Yeah, like it's all right there under the nose. It's crazy. Up here in Ontario, our COVID restrictions stayed in place for quite a while. Like into the beginning of this year is when we could finally start having public events. So all the stuff that I'm just like, I didn't realize that there's like 5 or 6 schools within an hour of my house. There's 6 or 7 different promotions that are all running within about a hour to 2 hour drive of me,
and tons of promotions too. Like we got so much stuff coming up this summer, and I'll probably do some shameless plugs on some indie shows in a bit later in the show, but it's awesome. And I think the whole purpose of this show is about supporting independent performers, promoters, refs, all that stuff.
100%. And if you can, like once you're in the door, once you have your ticket or whatever, if any purchases you make towards merch, whether you're buying the merch of the company putting on the event, or the wrestlers directly, or both, or any combination thereof, is if you're in a position to do that, pay it forward, and it brings the show back to your town. You know what I mean? It's like the same thing if one of my favorite bands puts out a record, I'm gonna buy their album the day it comes out. I'm gonna buy their ticket when they come to my town, because that's how they come back to your town. That's how they make another record. You know what I mean? If you leave out the part where you do something, then they're eventually going to leave out the part where they fucking make a record anymore or come play in your stupid town.
And I don't think people understand how expensive it is to be in this business. It costs a lot of money, not even to just learn, but to travel, get your gear, you get an injury. Like it's so, just like you said, buy the merch, buy the tickets. Don't ask for guest lists. Don't be a cool guy. Just spend that money and support, so we can keep talking about this stuff and keep interviewing, and just maybe even make a documentary one day, because it will be so detailed and so successful that we won't even need to be on YouTube, but we'll have a movie in theaters or something.
True indeed.
Some of the turnouts you guys have had in the new towns too, like Providence a few weeks ago, was bonkers.
Sold the fuck out in a debut.
That venue was sick too. That venue was really cool.
Fet's awesome. Like I've watched a lot of other shows that have happened there, but like even like that was your guys' first time there, and that place was probably more packed than I've seen it in ages. Like that looked wall to wall in there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's ever been sold out before for an indie wrestling show. Maybe it has, or maybe it was to a lesser extent or something. But yeah, like that, it was fucking packed in there. I was glad that commentary, we were up on the elevated position or whatever, so we were in our own little island or whatever. But sometimes the people are right on top of us. It just depends, and that's its own unique experience, because then you'll get, depending on how loud it is or how it's set up, you'll get a couple of fans that then get the benefit of they're getting commentary too at the live event, because like they're standing right by the table. So sometimes you can get really good energy from that, just seeing people react or respond to the fact that they're getting this commentary, as well as the insane live experience,
Which
especially
something that very unique to GCW. I'm gonna kind of give Kevin a bit of the pat on the back here. I hope you're not bashful, but you and Dave Prazak make one of the best duos in wrestling, period. Not independent wrestling, but wrestling, period.
Wow.
And,
CC Brett Lauderdale, CC Game Changer Wrestling on Twitter.
And a good example for me from this last weekend was like Effie versus Delirious. The commentary in that match was like, that's one of the examples of like how good commentary makes great matches, excellent matches.
Well, thank you, but that's a dream match. Like I wasn't just saying that for to be saying it. Like Delirious has long been one of my absolute favorite wrestlers and one of my favorite people in wrestling. And I've never gotten to call a Delirious match or anything ever. I've gotten to hang out with Delirious a million times, all that. Never got to call one of his matches ever. And I love, extra love, as you know, calling Effie matches. So having them both come together, I was like, I was just so fucking excited, and I'm glad that came through. But now I'm super keen to watch it back, and to keep in mind too that one thing I didn't say on commentary, but is very true, was that match in essence is a huge step forward in everything leading to the huge match between Bussy and it's Delirious and what's her name? Her name used to be Still Life with
Edith Surreal.
Yeah, Edith Surreal and Delirious as Incoherence taking on Bussy this Saturday for Jersey Championship Wrestling. Like that was almost like a preview of like two of the major proponents in that match getting to square off in advance of their big tag team encounter this weekend. But man, I can't wait. I can't wait to watch it. I'm going to see, maybe I might have to watch that as soon as we're done here. That and some of that backyard stuff I really want to see back too. But please, but you were saying, I don't mean to interrupt you from telling me that I do good at my job. I don't always get to hear that, so I'm definitely like.
I forget what show it was, and I believe it was you. It was the funniest line. I forget who was like up on the top rope, and someone goes, "He absolutely never misses, except for that time." And I popped so fucking hard. It was incredible.
It's funny, it's hard with so much stuff and blah, 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 and I don't always remember everything, but I know I'm not going to say their name out of respect to them, but I know exactly what move and spot you're talking about. And, that's like an ad lib, meaning I'm totally putting over this person's ability, and they truly never miss. They're like once in a lifetime type talent, and they start hitting the move and they miss. And I'm just like, but you can't, you know what I mean? So I'm like, at that point, you're so committed to it. What do you know what I'm saying?
We didn't bury him. It was hilarious. It was
right. Like it is what it is. Like I have to call what's there. You know what I mean? And at this point, that's exactly what happened. You never missed, but this time you did. That was insane. But I try to pride myself. Something that people have hit me up behind the scenes about before is I try to really be in the moment to see that even when something doesn't go as intended, there's often a very a seamless way to kind of put the focus back on what's going on and incorporate whatever just happened into the flow of what's now happening. Do you know what I mean? Without it being like, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. You know what I mean? Like there's like a so I take great pride in trying to do that as well. It's just like in a case like that,
it's literal momentum. Literal momentum.
Yes, I could not change that call at all, and I couldn't do it. That was I still would say that was the only call I could have made in that moment.
What else?
Because anything, if I said something else, I would no longer have any credibility, and the talent went right back to doing what they do at a very high level. So it all just goes away. But it didn't drag, it didn't die, it didn't stop or stall. It just immediately rolled through. So that you know what I mean? That shit makes me proud and or happy. You know what I mean?
It's good stuff.
It's one of the unique aspects of GCW too, though, because like the dynamic that you and Dave have is it's not like, most other promotions where like everyone's just very seriously just calling the action in such a direct way. It's like I feel like I'm watching wrestling with my friends, and they're just really like giving a good detailed explanation of what's happening the whole time we're watching.
Yeah, Dave is such a great talent, such a great mind for wrestling, and there's definitely obviously aspects of wrestling and the matches and what's going on between the wrestlers that's incredibly serious. But it's wrestling in the same way that there's going to be some blood, there's going to be some violence, there's going to be some technical, there's going to be some high flying, there's going to be some bloodshed. In the same way, there's going to be some serious stuff that happens. There's going to be some stuff that makes you laugh, some stuff that makes you mad, some stuff that makes you feel a different way. That's what a show is. So when you over serious everything, the serious parts are fine, but now the funny parts or the mad parts or whatever, they don't feel right because everything's put through an overly serious filter. Or let's pretend that it's 1987 instead of 2022. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, it's not like you should expose the business, so to speak, but you can certainly incorporate modern reality into what's going on instead of being like, well, technically in 86, it would have been called this way, but that's cool. But technically in 86, this match would have been a headlock for 14 minutes. You know what I mean? And nobody would have gotten over. So things have to evolve in all ways while staying true. You're still under the tent poles or whatever of professional wrestling, but the art form is always going to move forward. There's always been a Dynamite Kid. There's always been a Blake Christian. There's always been a Ninja Mac. There's always been a Young Bucks. There's always someone that's changing, a Will Ospreay. There's always someone that's literally changing what's possible in wrestling, a Ricochet. You know what I mean?
Even Bussy.
Yeah, thank you. Bussy, it's fucking, think about what Bussy is in terms of their influence in wrestling and what they've achieved. And to say they're not even done is like the understatement of the fucking year. You know what I mean? I've always said it on commentary, and I believe it sincerely. Allie Katch remains the best unsigned female wrestler in North America, and the best, one of the, obviously, say what, top 3, top 5 unsigned wrestlers overall, if you want to go whatever. She's just so talented, and I'm surprised in some ways that, like, why isn't Stardom booking Allie Katch? You know what I mean? I don't understand how she's not over there on a tour because she's so fucking great.
Even Ice Ribbon or Tokyo Joshi Princess,
any of them,
like any of them,
any and all of them. You know what I mean? To me, there's really essentially like no, Masha Slamovich is incredible. Also, you know what I mean? You have someone like Masha out there. You have Allie, but to me, there's very few people doing it at the level that they do it, and I think they deserve, all the flowers. But even better than the flowers is the bag. You know what I mean? Give those ladies the bag because they've earned it and they've deserved it. You know what I mean?
Can I do a shameless plug right now that relates to Allie Katch? So
absolutely.
We're here with GCW legends. So I got to plug Demand Lucha. It's coming up August 14th at Parkdale Hall, where you are going to see some GCW talent like Gringo Loco, who is a champion of Demand Lucha, and he is going up against someone who I don't fucking know, but it's going to be awesome. You also got Bussy is going to be in town. This event is actually called Effie's Lucha Vacation. So you're going to see, you're going to see luchadors, you're going to see Bussy, you're going to see big meaty men, you're going to see all types of stuff. It's all ages. Kicks off at around 7. Follow me on socials for all the tickets and all that shit, but follow Demand Lucha. If you like GCW, do not miss this one. The last one had Ninja Mac, Gringo Loco, and Speedball going at it, and it was absolutely insane. So do not miss it.
They just popped that up for free on YouTube, or they put the show on IWTV.
It's on IWTV now.
They just debuted that on, but that's Demand Lucha based in Toronto. I think it would have to be Bussy's Canadian debut because I don't think they've I don't think they've both traveled north of the border yet.
I feel like Effie,
since becoming a tag team, at least.
Right. Yeah, I know Effie. I'm pretty sure, 90% sure Effie's been up there as a single, but now to have Bussy up there, it's going to be fucking incredible. Those they're just so talented, it's ridiculous. I can't say enough good about them.
I'm already trying to figure out how to get that one off work because
Well, there seems to be like a pathway from GCW to Demand Lucha now that I'm kind of like, oh shit, like this is cool. It's kind of like a pipeline to get Canadians to America, to get Americans to Canada. And it's kind of similar in the style too, like the show. I mean, GCW is its own thing, Demand Lucha is its own thing, but it's like it's a party. You make friends, you get popcorn, you go outside and vape and see someone you haven't seen in 12 years, and you're like, oh shit, Jamie, what's up? It's great.
How many people is Demand drawing now?
Last one was about 300. Maybe a little bit under that. It was in like a decommissioned like furniture factory venue. It's really cool. Yeah.
I didn't even know they decommissioned furniture factories. I thought that was reserved for like military ships and such.
Toronto's weird, bro.
This furniture store is now decommissioned. Like it's a space now for general use.
It's Toronto, so it's a decommissioned furniture factory now.
Oh, I see.
And then over the next 2 years, it's going to get developed into some fancy ass bougie loft space that people pay like $1.25 million a month for.
Right, but right now, it's in that in between time and space.
Yeah. I'll send you photos of the venue because it kind of looks like haunted Showboat.
Wow.
It's like Showboat Hotel if it was like abandoned for 50 years.
Damn, I just got like someone just tried to call me while I'm doing this, and I didn't even touch the phone, but it seems to have just zoomed in on me as a result of me getting a phone call. Is that just me, or did that actually
No, it's like a Zoom. Yeah, we got that like that pull focus now. That New Japan pull focus.
It's crazy. How does that even work? I'm going to try to back it up a little.
It's wild too, though, because the camera quality went up when it zoomed.
Yeah, now you're in like 4K or some shit.
Yeah, we got like 4K KG.
I wonder what happened.
That should be the title: 4K POV interview with Kevin Gill.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just glad it didn't disconnect the call because someone was calling as per usual. My favorite feature of the iPhone: hey, you're video recording something, but someone's calling you. Of course, you want to immediately just automatically stop recording, right? No, that's not what I fucking want at all. How about if I want the call, I'll get it. Call me crazy.
No, it's okay. We're recording it, and if that happens, I just edit it out anyway. So,
What's the next week like for you guys for GCW? Like, I'm sure you have shows to plug and things that you're getting ready for as well.
Yeah, like this weekend, I'm not going to be there, but Jersey Championship Wrestling is doing a huge show for free on YouTube this Saturday with it's just an insane lineup. There's never been this much talent on a Jersey Championship Wrestling show before. It's all airing on the Game Changer YouTube page for free. And that's at night. In the day, earlier in the day, is the GCW Settlement Series. The first show in the GCW Settlement Series. I'm sure you guys have seen the promotional materials, the talent announcements. There's been a lot of kind of new innovations in the graphic and marketing front. And all I know is that for sure, I know Too Hot Steve Scott is going to be there. And do you remember who else is going to be there?
You know what? I can pull it up. I saw it earlier.
I think there was like four talents announced.
I was losing it over the Great American Birthday Bash because that Cole Radrick and Konosuke Takeshita match is on there, and then Billy Starks versus Nick Wayne. I'm so excited to watch.
Oh my god!
Like
just dream matches, and then of course the aforementioned Bussy versus Incoherence.
That's gonna slap. That's gonna slap so hard.
But then the weekend after this weekend is a double shot weekend again for GCW, and that'll be a Friday night in Los Angeles, California on Fight TV, and then a Sunday afternoon in San Francisco, early Sunday evening, also on Fight TV. So those are the immediate future. But then there's tons coming up. A huge one in Nashville as part of StarCast weekend and Ric Flair's last match weekend, and I think there's like a SummerSlam also. There's all kinds of stuff happening in Nashville and with GCW, and we just announced debuts for North Carolina. Didn't we just announce a return to Atlanta as well?
I'm gonna have to take a peek. Probably.
I think we announced that Atlanta. Yeah, we announced Atlanta and North Carolina at the same time.
Have you guys done Buffalo? Have you guys done Buffalo yet?
Not yet.
That would be rowdy.
I think yet's the operative word, though. I can't see.
Let me ask you this though: how do you feel, candidly, Buffalo versus Rochester? And I've I've never been to a show in Rochester, but I've been to a show in Buffalo, and it was fucking amazing.
Living 45 minutes from Buffalo, I'd say Buffalo, but that's just, selfishly like maybe I can somehow get out to a GCW show if they're that close to the border. So
Buffalo
Yes.
and Ontario are like this. So I
Yeah.
think the idea it's
So
kind of like
I'm
a
drawing
pipeline.
people over from
Yeah,
Canada,
'cause-
from
yeah,
Canada.
because we
From
share,
Canada.
like we share Niagara Falls with Buffalo. That is literally like the Canada-US border is Niagara Falls, and
But we're
Buffalo-
also Bill's Mafia. Like
Yeah, and then-
Ontario is
Yeah.
Bill's Mafia.
yeah, like we're all just like Bills fans by geographical location because who wants to be a
And we have
Lions
homies
fan?
from there.
That's
True.
awesome. Yeah, I never really thought about the Canadian crossover of running in Buffalo, but that would definitely give it an advantage over Rochester. I know Brett is very much wanting to run up in that area, and of course, running in New York has its challenges. But we've obviously run in New York many times before in different parts of New York, so I would like to see that happen for sure.
Well, if you guys ever need a private, like 30-acre area to do another private cornfield event in Canada, let me know.
Oh,
'Cause I got
man.
you. I got
Yeah.
you.
Oh wait, wouldn't we do? When is
Backyard
man,
North.
Yeah, I wonder if we could do it like almost like the equivalent of Christmas Day, Boxing Day sort of thing, where there's like a when's Canadian Independence Day?
July 1st.
July 1st.
Do like a loop.
It's right at upstate New York. You could swim to it from like where I'd want to do it. So
Wow.
it's kind of close.
Imagine that we'd be the first indie ever to do a Canadian exclusive pay-per-view. Has it been done before or no?
I
don't think
so.
I don't-
Like I remember WWE did those like European exclusive pay-per-views back in the day.
Especially outside in this big ass field and like people like girls in bikinis smoking weed. It would be great.
I'm 90% positive I'll see GCW in Canada before I see AEW ever get up here.
I mean, I think they have some distinct advantages.
They got that shmoney
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Television contract, like legal
Yeah.
department, or access to one,
Ac-
visas.
Access.
So
to
wait,
visas.
are we gonna get settlement series merch? Because I want that. I want
Ah,
settlement
well,
series merch.
As soon as they did the initial flyer, I sent a strongly worded request that original announced flyer has to be on a white T-shirt. You know what I mean, just with
amazing.
black printing. And I didn't get a direct answer, and now we're pretty close to the show. So I'm going to, following this interview, I'm going to reiterate my stance and see if they are planning anything,
That
even
show,
if it's limited run.
that
Take my
show,
money.
that show, by the way, you were asking earlier, besides Too Hot Steve Scott, who was announced, Akira, Axton Ray, and I just had it open. I suck at this job. Oh my God.
Axton Ray is an incredible talent.
He had a hell of a weekend with you guys. He made his debut. He did like a JCW show a couple months ago, and he ended up getting invited back for the Scramble later that night.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then
And he killed it.
him and Ninja Mac in Sage was amazing. And then his match he wrestled Nick Wayne in Evansville, I think, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Both of the he's so fun to watch. He's like, big, powerful young guy, but then also super agile for that size.
Indeed, without a doubt and without question. But yeah, so there's a lot coming up for GCW. Most every event has tickets on Eventbrite. The San Francisco shows are done through a different site through the venue, but and all the events except for the Settlement Series all air on Fight TV, so you can get those. And I'm always out there doing commentary. I also do commentary for the Underground Wrestling Alliance here in San Jose, California. They have a big event coming up in San Francisco as well. And in fact, tonight, the Underground Wrestling Alliance is releasing a complete show from their archives for free on their YouTube channel. And that show happens to include, besides myself on commentary, I brought an old friend of mine to do some commentary as well, Montel Vontavious Porter, a.k.a. MVP. During that moment in time where WWE suddenly decided they didn't need one of the best fucking promos in the industry to be in their company, I had the opportunity to do commentary with them.
That's
and who
fucking
knows
awesome.
what else might happen when MVP's in the house. But that show also features Matthew Justice in an absolute barn burner, and then spotlights a bunch of the local Bay Area talent. Ugwa is a really unique DIY, like super underground promotion that I recommend everyone check out. Shout out to Middle Kingdom Wrestling. Shout out, of course, to the homies at Real Kind Meds. I recommend that everyone follow Real Kind Meds at 421. Slide into their DMs and let everything just go from there.
Yeah.
And where can the people follow you if they aren't already following you on social and all that stuff?
Please, on Twitter and especially Instagram. I recently came up with an idea for doing cameos, but I realized I do not have the appropriate number of Instagram followers. If Instagram was Twitter, I would be okay.
How many do you need?
Like a lot, like probably like, well, they want you to have 30,000, and I probably have like on Instagram, I probably have like 5,000 or something.
Okay, we gotta get you to 30K. We gotta get you to 30K.
So I don't know. I'll maybe start posting like stories or clips or something to get me there, or maybe just I'll do them on without giving Cameo a cut. I'll just do it directly on Twitter or whatever. But yeah, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at OG Kevin Gill. And trying to think if there's anything else.
Dignifiedbastard.com.
Dignifiedbastard.com has some cool music and stuff. I think my shirts are sold out on there. And my Facebook is an interesting place to look because as I'm preparing to move and stuff, more so on there than Twitter, but I've been finding various items from my archives and selling them to appreciative people that I'm very appreciative of all over the world. So if you follow my Facebook or whatever, or Twitter to a lesser extent, you may find yourself owning some cool memorabilia, collectibles, etc.
Very cool. My dog is begging me to take him out for a walk, so I'm gonna like preemptively sign myself off. This has been awesome.
Where can people find you, Lily?
Nowhere. I don't exist. No, you can find me at Lillie Z on Twitter. From there, link in bio. You can go to all my other spicy links and not spicy links. I'm gonna be popping up all over the place. I'm going to be working with a few promotions in Toronto, wrestling promotions, and going to be doing a lot more streaming and hopefully getting my ass to America to get to a GCW show so I can meet you in the flesh. And
hell yeah,
maybe
we can get it up to Buffalo so it'll at least be in swimming distance.
Take my money, please.
Buffalo, please, Mr. Lauderdale.
Oh, well, I'll send Brett this link when you guys posted it. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me spread the gospel of Game Changer Wrestling. Oh, and I do have a pro wrestling tees store too. ProWrestlingTees.com/ I think it's just /Kevin Gill.
We'll put it in the description down here.
Yeah, it'll be in the description.
Support your boy KG. Send me a tip on Twitter. Let me know that you heard this. Let me know that you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Support KG. Support Lily. I'm Mike. I'm here every week.
Support Mike too.
I've got
Support Mike.
Mr. Purple TV. It's right there. That's my Twitter. I've got a really fun announcement coming tomorrow night.
Oh,
that
shit.
I've almost slipped it like 4 times on this show. So I gotta end the show before I spill secrets.
Take it home, brother.
But look out tomorrow. I've got an announcement coming on the Twitter. This whole show is gonna look very fucking different next week, and I can't wait for it. Whoa. Thank you again, Lily, for coming on here. You'll see her a lot more around here. KG, the door's always open for you. Thank again.
You.
Have a great weekend, everybody.